Hey.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to just do a quick introduction, add whatever you would like to it.
Okay.
As I told you before, I kind of just shoot from the hip and we just see how things go on this podcast. And
Perfect.
It's fun. I prefer it that way.
like it.
I think you get a little bit more authenticity that way. So we have Kimberly with us. She has a podcast called The Cinnamon Effect. And you guys talk about a huge range of topics from wellness to self-discovery and just overall well-being for people.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me kind of how that got started? Like, where did the passion for that come?
Sure. It was funny. I think it was something maybe that was like in the back of my head for a long time. And a friend of mine said, we were like jamming on some ideas and she said, you know what? I feel like you need a podcast. I feel like you have like more to talk about.
It's always that friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, thank God for them. Right.
Yeah.
So, my friend Jess, she said, I think you need I think a podcast would be fun for you. And I looked at her and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, she knew of this place, Pod Populi. So she said, I'll give them a call and just see what the deal is. I think she, kind of interested in knowing, about it as well. And I said, okay. And then, arranged just a meeting. And then it was like, I'm kind of like an overthinker. And I feel like it was a decision that I really didn't overthink. I just kind of
the best decisions.
I know. I just kind of like jumped into it.
Yep.
And it's been amazing so far. So I started in October. And when I was, dreaming of the idea, because I thought, well, I don't want to, for me, I wanted like to, obviously we all want to like provide some value to our audience, right? So I'm like, I'm not going to just do this with no like purpose. So what is my purpose? And I just started, brainstorming and thinking, what would that be? And it kind of started just thinking like, I want to give, like, what makes life better? Like, what are the things that make life better? So I was, thinking of different topics and we talk about, connection, creativity, building confidence, all kind of stuff, creating calm in our lives, that type of thing. And I was like, what is it, to tie it to the name, like, what is it that makes things like just a little bit better, that was kind of the thought process. And one day I was sitting outside by my pool and I was just really trying to have some like quiet time. And I was like, you know what? Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Which seems like way random, but it really does. Like, I think you just like sprinkle a little cinnamon. So those kinds of topics and the different things that I discuss is like, anyone listening can kind of just do this extra little step or add this one thing to their life to make it just a little bit better. And so that's a cinnamon effect.
It's funny because it's so true about cinnamon. So pumpkin spice season's officially over. So now I'm not drinking my pumpkin spice every single morning. The other day I was like, I took like my heavy cream, put it in, made my coffee, and I'm like, it needs something. And I was like, cinnamon.
Oh, I love it.
Just put a little cinnamon in and blended it up. And I was like, this is perfect. It's awesome. So I love that. But you touched on something there so there's two things. One thing I talk about a lot in my personal life is peace and ease. So I was interviewed for, I don't know if you've heard of Hippocrates Health Institute.
Yes, okay, I've been there. Yes.
Awesome. So now I'm their doctor. So I go up there a couple of days a week to take care of their clients, have my practice in Delray and all that other stuff. They found out about me. It's amazing. But
awesome.
I was talking on their radio show yesterday and I was like, peace and ease. Like before I make decisions in life now, like, is it going to bring me more peace and ease or not? And if it's not, I'm just simply not interested.
Yeah.
Even if it means more money, but is it going to create a massive amount of instability and stress in my life? Then I'm not sure I'm interested in it right now.
Yeah.
Like I know I can get to the wealth that I desire through peace and ease. And that's a different feeling than we were raised with. So I love that you touched on that. And then the other thing I want to ask is, you sat down when a friend told you to do this podcast and they were like, because that's how I got into it too. Same thing. Friend told me to do it.
A good friend.
Yeah. Very good friend. And, you asked yourself like what the purpose of it was going to be and what your purpose is specifically, you said. Is that the first time you sat down and asked yourself that?
Yeah. I think, I'm 43. And so right before I turned 40, I think is when my purpose started I just started thinking about it. And so look how long it took to really, come to this realization that this is something I wanted to do. And then yet, when you say, I did feel like I just had a lot to say and to share. And I think I'm kind of the friend that people come to when they want a little like uplift. They're like, oh, let me go talk to Kimberly. Like she might have some kind of tip or something. And I started to think like, maybe that's my purpose, is to just help people kind of uplift and be optimistic and add these, healthy things to their lives and really, try and discover their self. So yeah, I think it was a couple year process of.
But I think that's another key point when we talk about things is everybody thinks that it's like do this and get the immediate result, but things are a process and it takes 2, 3, 4 years potentially to get there. But it's cool that something got you thinking in my mind of like, okay, what's the greater picture here that I can deliver to the world? And a lot of times we're told to do that through life coaches or, self-help books and personal development. And we don't have anything to attach it to make it real. But by giving yourself the podcast, you had something to attach it to make it real. So I just think it's cool when we do things like that.
Yeah. And actually now I'm thinking, I think it's important to be said that, like 9 years ago, I started doing videos on YouTube about, and I've talked about this a little bit on my podcast, but about making green smoothies and making homemade nut milk and, all of this stuff. And it was kind of like 9 years ago, wasn't really, not a lot of people were doing it. It was kind of before all this Instagram, stuff. And I was doing it and I got pregnant and I ended up being really sick throughout my pregnancy. So the kind of food videos and all that stuff, I wasn't feeling like eating anything healthy. So I wasn't making any like healthy videos at that time because I was really sick. But I always kind of looked back at that experience of like, I should have stuck with it, and I didn't. And it always felt a little bit like a failure to me. Like, oh, here I really had this vision for what I wanted to bring to the world. And then I kind of just stopped.
Sure.
But when I now look at where I'm at with the podcast, I'm like, oh, all of that happened to prepare me for what I'm doing today. Even though it was so long ago, what good preparation. I mean, I was doing those videos in my kitchen and recruiting my friend Glenn to come over and bring me lighting because he was in like production and stuff. And I'd say, bring some lights in your camera. And I would kind of con him into doing these videos with me, So now flash forward, it's like, oh, all of that, I think a lot of people want to get down on themselves and say, oh, I did that and I failed or it didn't work out or whatever. And I believe that every little tiny thing, every meeting, every job you took, even if it was a part-time job, like every single thing leads you to this point today. So don't get down if it didn't work out right away. Maybe 9 years later, you'll be finding yourself in a better position to get your, to share with the world what you're wanting to do.
It's so cool that you're bringing that up now because last week's episode, my buddy and I talk about that. So
cool.
This episode, when it airs right after that one, he talks about how he had a job pumping gas in New Jersey and how it started a whole way of like learning how to make tips. Which then and now he's owns his own business and it started another one on a credit card and like where all that's going. And like, it's so cool because it's literally what you just described. And so you have the opportunity to look at everything. And that's a big thing I talk about a lot is in my house, we're not allowed to say the problem is. We have to say the opportunity is because it'll literally hardwire the brain in a completely different manner. Right. Because if you go down if you start with the problem is fill in the blank, you have to track that and finish it. The brain wants to finish it. But if you substitute the word and you go with the problem is, or the opportunity is instead of the problem is, your brain literally is going to hardwire itself to seek opportunities everywhere at the most fundamental level. And so I challenge anybody out there that hears it or says it to immediately stop saying it and watch what happens. You'll literally be like, you won't, you get so confused because you're like, oh my God, for 40 years I've said this. And now when I try the opposite, it's not working. Right.
Yeah.
And like your brain's like, I can't find the problem anymore. And so it's fascinating. And so if you see everything you do as the next step to the next thing, life's just better, right? More peace and ease. That's
more
the thing.
peace and ease. Yeah. That's the cinnamon effect too. Like,
yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. So you had your son, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you were sick the entire pregnancy. Do you want to talk about what that was like for anyone listening?
Yeah, that was, I thought going into pregnancy that I was going to be, I always into health and wellness. I was a dancer my whole life, like always very active.
It was going to be a breeze.
Yeah, this is going to be a breeze. Yeah. And I was doing, a lot of like hot yoga at the time. So I thought I'm going to be doing handstands. I literally said, I'm going to do handstands this whole pregnancy. Like I just was thinking in my mind that it was going to be such a piece of cake. And turned out it wasn't. And that was really hard mentally on me. It was, I can't even explain it because I guess in my mind, I just saw all these women walking around pregnant and happy and exercising and doing all these things. And then I was not able to do that. And so I had some issues where I could not exercise my entire pregnancy. I could not even walk for exercise, nothing. I also ended up on bed rest the last 3 months of my pregnancy. So I gained 75 pounds pregnant, which was a lot of weight for me at the time. I think I started out at like 115 and then, and
more than half your body weight.
Yeah, I was struggling food wise. I was vomiting. It was crazy and really, but in some ways, obviously in the ways that, I have my son now and he is the absolute love of my life and the best thing that ever happened to me. And also he's such I don't want to, easy is not really the term, but like if in the womb, you would have thought he was going to cause me a lot of trouble later. And he's totally not like that. He's like just a love, Yeah. So, but what it did, not being able to do much of anything else, I really got into meditation at that time.
Beautiful.
And I had not really discovered it before. And I remember sitting outside and there weren't the apps and all of that there are now either. So I was like, if I can just concentrate on the sounds of the birds,
goosebumps. There's no better way to do it.
Yeah. And I just tuned in because I would always do it outside and I'd feel the breeze on my face and I would do all these things. And that was kind of my mode of meditation. And it didn't matter how long I sat there. I didn't have any expectation. Beautiful. I just thought, this is my only way of relaxing. And then also I was able to float. They said I could not swim because it was too strenuous, but I could float. Okay. And so I did a lot of floating in my pool and meditation. And that was like 9 months of my life.
Yeah. So the way you just described meditation is the most perfect way to meditate. And it's the most natural way to do it. And it's how we are supposed to do it. And it's the most easiest way to do it. Like everybody thinks they have to sit down in a quiet room and silence their mind and have this revelation and everything. And it's like just, I don't know if you've ever heard of Abraham Hicks.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how she talks about it. She's like, just go sit beside the air conditioner and focus on the sound of the air conditioner.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And when you get restless, stop and go do something else.
Yes.
Yes. And it's when you do that, you're like, whoa. And it's like, that's one of the ways I fall asleep every time I get on a plane. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. I take my hat, I pull it down like this. I lay my head back. I cross my arms. I tell Sloan I'm going to go to sleep. And I just listen to the sound and I'm out in like 30 seconds. And then I wake up and we're like halfway there. And I'm like, okay. Her son's like, Dad, I want another snack. I'm like, son of a bitch, I was passed out, But
I can't sleep on a plane, so
oh my God.
I can't do it.
I'm out. It's like, it's perfect. I figured it out. Try meditating like that on it to the sound of the jets. See how that works.
I love a sound machine, so I probably would be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So a couple of things you and I had talked about ahead of time that I would like to touch on, and they can be big topics, so I kind of want to go into them, is like attachment parenting. So when people hear that, especially a man that hears something like attachment parenting, I think they're like, we're supposed to raise these independent children that are free thinkers and whatever, and I don't want them attached to me, and that's not healthy, right? So tell me what that means to you and how you would kind of describe that to another mom or a father that is like, well, tell me more about this attachment parenting.
Yes. Okay. So the pregnancy was not ideal, right? And so, but I did have a doula all through my pregnancy that I saw, and I was doing acupuncture, every week. And I was really kind of getting into this just like natural minded. I'd always been on that route, but now knowing what I know, like I was just at the tip of the iceberg then, So my doula, so then I had a postpartum doula. Kind of a long story, but she was present at my birth as well. But I had already arranged for her to come, which was such a luxury. And I think also at that time, not everyone had a doula,
or even knew what it was.
But I think having all that difficulty during the pregnancy, I really needed someone to rely on in that way. And so that's where, my doulas kind of came into play. But my postpartum doula, Gina, shout out to Gina, she really taught me what attachment parenting was. I can't say that I was really raised that way or knew much about it until she showed me different things that I could be doing, And I would say from the beginning, it always felt not aligned to like have my son in his crib in another room across, Yep. It just, and so it really started with the bassinet right by the bed, and then we kind of transitioned into co-sleeping. I was nursing on demand. I actually never pumped a bottle ever. I just
love it.
Yeah. And I did that for a long time.
Yep.
So, and actually having all that difficulty through the pregnancy, the actual birth ended up being very traumatic. So it was a very traumatic birth experience. And I ended up back in the hospital with a spinal headache after. And there were a lot of things that kind of culminated, and that could be a whole podcast in itself. So I won't bore you with that, but
it might be a good one to do sometimes.
Yeah,
so
it would. Yeah. I think it'd be really cathartic actually. But, so day one, I actually didn't think I was going to be able to nurse and everything. And I just took it. My doula said, just take it one feeding at a time and just go from there. And when I was back in the hospital, actually, they would bring my baby to me and I would nurse him. And I would think, okay, I can do this, I can get through this and I can do this. And, so, what it means to me, really, I did a lot of baby wearing. He was always right there with me.
Yes.
For a very long time.
Yes.
I mean, he was on my body. I would rock him to sleep. I would hold him. I would co-sleep with him. I would nap with him. We were joined at the hip.
Did all the same stuff with Sloan.
Yeah.
All of it. All the same things.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yes.
And I don't regret not 1 second of, everyone says, you're going to spoil your baby by holding him like that. No. Guess what?
Quite literally the opposite.
Quite literally the opposite. Exactly. And I know that, if all I did that one whole day was hold him for every nap and nurse him on demand. And I couldn't, I think what part of it too, I couldn't wrap my head around a schedule. Yeah. I couldn't figure it out. My brain was like scrambled. Like I just felt it was like scrambled eggs up there. Like I'd been through all this trauma. I wasn't getting any sleep. And just what felt the most natural to me was just having him right there with me every second of every day.
Yep.
I actually didn't leave my house for 3 months. And I don't know.
We did stuff like that.
Yeah.
We did the same things. It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I think I needed that time to heal and everything. Like I needed that time. I kind of commend people that can, take the baby for a walk and do, I couldn't do that. And it was medical reasons why I couldn't do that. But, in hindsight, that 3 months of just staying at home and loving on that baby. And the love obviously still, continues. We still just always look at that. Like if he is loved up and the touch and, all of that, if we have established that and that bond, then everything else doesn't really matter.
Nothing else matters. And I have noticed the more they're loved on, the more they're, same as if you talk to any personal development person, the more they're loved on, seen and heard, the better their behavior is.
Yeah.
98% of the issues you're dealing with your child are most likely coming down to not having that closeness on a regular basis because I see it all the time. I'm ignoring her. I'm doing other things. I'm not focused. It's still, even at 6, you know, it's like, Dad, I need to cuddle. Dad, I need this. Okay. And all they're doing is trying to regulate their nervous system and you are co-regulating it with them. And I think it's very important that we understand that it's our job to help co-regulate their nervous system. It is not their job to help co-regulate our nervous system. Because I see a lot of parents do that. And I'm like, oh my God, that is not your child's obligation. Like, you are putting unrealistic expectations on this poor thing, right? And you're creating an unhealthy attachment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, you know, for instance, I a good example of this is, there's a girl that I know who's younger, and when she's away from her father, I know that the father says things like, I just sit in the house and wait for you to come back, and I don't do anything. Like he's like all these kinds of things, right? To like almost manipulate or make them feel guilty, like all of these things. And the girl's 5, 6. It's crazy. Well, Sloan asked me, what do you do when I'm not here? Because Christy has her, you know, my ex-wife has her 50% of the time. And I'm like, oh, Dad does lots of things. Yeah. I go to the gym. I go to the cigar lounge with Skylar. I go, you know, I do podcasts sometimes. I go to work. Sometimes I'm in Atlanta for a business trip, or I'm in whatever, you know, like Daddy's doing things. And of course I miss you, baby. Like I love it, but Daddy's building the new life for us, right? Like, don't feel sorry for Dad when you're not here. That's not what your job is, not to co-regulate my emotions. Now, peel the curtain back, and I just had this conversation this morning with her godmother Bree, and because it's so funny. So Bree had the house to herself this morning, and she was like, "Oh my God, I needed it!" Like just like you know, just like, like you know, and she was like, "But I miss." You know, my husband and Emmy, and like, you know, all these things. Like I feel lonely a little bit, you know, and I'm like, when I don't have Sloan, I'm very, very busy. And if I stay somewhere else, like if I'm on a business trip or whatever, I'm good for the most part, you know, like, of course I miss her. I would want her on the trip with me, but when I stay at home in our bed, I'm always like, fuck, like I'm good until it's bedtime. And then I'm like, shit, you know, and it's like, but I don't let her know that. Yeah. Because I don't want her ever being in her mom's house and being like, oh my God, Dad's upset or X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Like that's not okay. Like they need to know you're stable and strong and everything's good. And then they can feed off of that stability.
Absolutely.
And so and back to the, I wish it wasn't called attachment parenting, because it gives seems like kind of a weird term, you know, but present parenting, anything else, but just being attuned to them and emotionally available for them. It's such a young age when their nervous system is developing and their brain is developing. And I mean, just imagine you're their size in a world of giants trying to figure it out. Yeah. You get nervous just going into your boss's office at work. Right. Yeah. Imagine if that's what every interaction was fucking like for you, and the kid's supposed to be fine at daycare. Yeah. And not be like, I want my mom. Who are these fucking people? Right. Like you're not okay with that at 40. Yeah. you know, like peel it back and think for a second. Like, and then what I have found is that when that attachment is good and secure, and you do go to the daycare, they're like, yeah, Dad, see you later. Yes. See you later. Yes. Because you're always coming back. You're always doing these things. Yeah. So I love it. We raised Sloan the same way. That is how, I mean, my ex-wife, Sloan had a tongue and lip tie that was bad. Mm-hmm. We sought out this amazing doctor in South Carolina. He used a laser instead of cutting it. Okay. He had to go really deep. It was a whole shebang. Oh, but wow. We had a lip tie also. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, a tongue tie. Tongue tie. Yeah, she had it all, the whole thing. And it was so painful for Christy to breastfeed. Mm-hmm. I saw like this warrior come out, and she was like, no, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how she's getting her milk. We're not doing it any other way. And she would just sit on the couch in pain, like excruciating pain, all during the breastfeeding, until we were able to get that fixed. And then she could suck and latch, and the tongue could do its thing, and like all these things, but she was committed to that, and it was amazing. But it's a lot of people, I think to me, it's so funny because people make structures of like when and how to breastfeed or when and how to feed your child. But when you co-sleep and Sloane's there and Christy's laying there and Sloane like nudges her because she's hungry, Christy just rolls over and flops her boob out and Sloane just is like, and then Christy just goes back to sleep. And it's just like when Sloane's done, she stops and, or like however, it was. And she was like, I don't know why people do it any other way.
Yeah, it definitely makes it way easier.
Way easier.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when we were somewhere and she was breastfeeding and she like, she was like trying to keep the thing over, like trying to be all whatever. And the lady across from us, I think, had like 4 kids. And she was like, please, honey, just fucking pull your tit out. Yeah. Nobody cares. And it was but my ex at that time was like, it was so refreshing to hear like another mom just straight up be like, please stop it. This is what we were designed to do.
I know.
And it was cool.
Yeah, it's totally cool. I think, I don't know, I'm such an advocate for breastfeeding. Obviously, you have to do what you have to do, and there's certain situations and people can't,
Absolutely. No, it's not one size fits all to everything.
Yeah, it's not. But it is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. That whole journey.
The bonding is insane.
Oh yeah. The bonding is insane. Yeah. Especially when our birth didn't really go as planned.
Or the pregnancy
for that matter. But yeah, it ended up, it was just, it's been so, like everything happens for a reason. Right. And we went through this journey together, me and him, to get to this beautiful place. So I have no regrets with how everything shook out.
So he's 7.
He's correct? 7. Yep.
Sloane's 6.
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, but only child, right?
Only child.
Sloane is also an only child. And I have kind of talked a little bit about this, and I think potentially Sloane might be my only child. I don't know if I want to have another one. And some of and when people ask me that, the reasons I give them are, much like you, I gave so much at the beginning. I don't know if I'll do that at the same capacity if I had another child. And that would feel like a disservice to me. And I'm not okay with doing something half-assed or disserviced like that. And so I don't want to do that. That's one reason. 2, Sloane's going to graduate high school like when I'm 47.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Life's kind of just starting.
Right.
Yeah, what do I want to do? Yeah. So there's a little bit of selfishness there that I'm okay with acknowledging that sounds really appealing to me. And then my sister and I are exactly, we're 7 years apart.
Okay.
Boy and girl. So it's very different.
Yeah.
Than if you were to have 2 girls or something. I would imagine that's a little bit different, but I would say the last 5 to 6 years, maybe a little bit more, we started to really get close. Because 7 years, to put that into perspective for people, like I'm 18 leaving to go play college football, drink a case of beer on Friday night, and try and have sex with a random woman. My sister's 11 listening to Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
There's nothing in common at all. And that's hard to build a relationship with a sibling when it's that far apart and no one else is in between.
Yeah.
So then like I was a lunatic for a bunch of years. She never was. She always had her shit together, and so then I get my shit together and then we start to like, come together again and have a really good relationship, which is awesome. So that's part of one of the things that I think about. So now that I've told my whole thing to you, tell me your thoughts on having another child and what you think about that.
So I can relate. My brother is 8 years younger than me. Okay. So we had that gap, and I would say I was very mature for a young person, and I kind of treated him like he was my child.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so not that was great, but I think now I know.
I was like, we can go on a tangent on that too, but that's okay.
But I was like mothering him, and now we have more of a sibling, type relationship. But I'm 43 and he's 35, so. It's something that I've been, open about is the fact that I did get pregnant a second time and I ended up having a miscarriage. And it was right before I was turning 40 and it wasn't really planned, at the time. And it ended up being a very again, a very traumatic experience for me. And so I thought, they say, oh, well, if you try again right away after a miscarriage, like this was kind of I don't know if that's a myth or if that's true, like you probably will get pregnant pretty quickly after. And I just thought that
I've never heard that before. And I'm in the world of doctors, so I don't know though.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what people were kind of telling me. And I just thought, well, I just don't know that I can risk having like another experience like this.
It's a lot of emotion.
Yeah. And I had been diagnosed with PTSD after my birth with my son. So there were a lot of things. And I think the second pregnancy exacerbated that condition. And when I was miscarrying, it just felt like this is not something I'm going to try for again. I am so happy with my one child. I feel like I can give him attention and so much love. And I just felt like my heart was full. And I spoke to I used to work for a doctor years ago, and I called him because I call him if there's like medical advice
Sure.
I feel like I need.
Sure.
And he's a great man. And he said, once you make the decision to not, just don't look back on it. Don't look back and say, oh, but what would it be like if he had a little sister, like kind of conjured this whole fairy tale fantasy in my head. And I said, you know what? That was the best advice I had gotten. And of course I had done therapy and stuff. After that, I did EMDR for PTSD. I did all this kind of stuff. So I really did just say, I can't look and think what if.
Yeah.
So he is an only child. He will be an only child. And I think my husband and I, we celebrate that, and we celebrate the pluses of that, which are, all the attention goes to him, and we're both able to attend, the soccer game or whatever it is. We don't have to divide and conquer with another child and their activities. And, there are a lot of bonuses that I think people don't think about.
No, there are. And it's interesting. One of my good friends that I respect a lot, shout out to Judy Mack, in older business, kids are, son's an attorney, like just awesome. Right. And I was talking about this with her. 'Cause she's kind of like I don't want to say a mother figure, because it's not like that, but just somebody I really respect and can bounce things off of that's not attached to my family. Mm-hmm. Like if I need that type of advice, like unemotional, she's going to be like, no, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and she was like, our son is an only son. Mm-hmm. It is perfectly acceptable to have one child, and never let society tell you any different.
Yeah.
And she's like, and he lived an amazing life. We have an amazing life, and it will be awesome. And I was like, like somebody I respect, somebody who's been there, it just was this sigh of like,
don't have to worry.
Don't have to worry about it. And there are times that, I had, maybe a year ago or more, I'd messaged, I don't know when I messaged my ex-wife, and, we have an amazing co-parenting relationship and all that stuff. And so like we can talk to each other about whatever in terms of that. And I was like, sometimes I wish we would have had another one right away. Even though we're divorced now, but I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, it would be cool to have two right now. Like that would be fun. And then I think about how much more work that would be. And I'm like, nah, I'm glad we didn't have two more right now, especially as like a single dad having multiple children to take care of. That would be a lot.
That'd be a lot.
That'd be a lot.
I think sometimes people aren't that honest with themselves in saying, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. And especially, when they get like our kids are, 6 and 7, they start getting into activities and things like that and homework. And, I can't imagine some of my friends of 2, 3, 4 kids, like what that's like. That's a lot of work.
Chaos.
All
the
chaos.
Time. Just living chaos for 18 years. Yeah. I'm not sure that fits my
I know.
goal.
And to each his own. It's like whatever you want to do and whatever your circumstance is, but don't feel less than if you're only having one.
Right.
If you're choosing to have one.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
One of my buddies who's on the podcast, they have 3. They're going to have a 4th. He loves it. He's amazing. Like he's definitely a father I aspire to be, Mm-hmm. He's amazing. And then one of my other buddies is on here. I think I can't remember maybe 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
I've had people on who've had 7, like, and one of my friends, he has 7, and I was over at his house doing a cold plunge, and it's amazing how the coexistence is, you know, like I love it. Like I can be there and be like, man, I could definitely have done this life too.
Yeah.
But I didn't go that route. And so it's
Right.
kind of like listening to you say that advice from your doctor friend. I'm like, man, this is why I love this podcast. Cause it's like, basically I get free self-help.
Yeah. You're learning. Yeah. I learned so
awesome.
much.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to use that one, you know?
Yeah.
And you mentioned activities, like a few seconds ago. And that's one of the things I definitely not struggle with, but, Sloan wants to do everything. And I want her to experience everything. Right. And so it's like, but I also want her to have calmness and downtime and free play, because that's what then gives us the energy and the stability to do all the other things we want to do. So I know your son's in jujitsu, and so is Sloan. That's kind of the one thing that is like a staple for me, where I'm like, this is important to the family and to me and to you, that you stay in this thing for a very long time. And the reason behind that's in my head that I've shared is, she's going to turn 16 someday, and she's going to want to go do things. And I am willing to allow her to probably do more than her friends are going to be allowed to do if I know she's been doing jujitsu for the last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
And if she comes and shoots the pistol with dad and knows how to concealed carry and do all those 2 things are very big in my house. And if you do those, I'm going to give you so much freedom. And you're going to want that freedom when you're 16. I promise. Yeah. Right. Because then I'm going to feel good and safe and secure, and it's good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because
she's going to be a little badass.
I've since the day she was born, I've told her she's a badass with a purpose. I'm like, you're a badass. I have little videos of her going, badass switch, purpose. you know, but, so how do you manage that? Them wanting to do everything, downtime, free play, creative play, no structure, still going to jujitsu, wanting to do archery, wanting to play the violin, the piano, etc. I'm just naming everything Sloan likes to do. You know?
They probably get along really well. David plays the violin too.
So for her birthday, she's probably getting a violin and a bow. So,
awesome. Yeah. That's funny. My husband's a hunter. So, so yeah, archery is, all those things are, on the horizon, but it is very hard. I think, and maybe we talked about this prior, but David goes to a private school, and it's an amazing school.
Yep.
But, I vacillate between like we did Montessori prior to that. And so when I dropped him off for kindergarten, I was like, oh my God, he's going to actually have to sit at a desk, and he's not going to be able to play on the floor and do all the things that he was doing in Montessori. So I loved that foundation. But I also love, I love what he's getting at his school now, which he started playing the violin. And I think that was like, you could take regular music class, or you could choose to do the violin. And originally he had said, I think I just want to do the regular, I say regular, but it was, standard music class where you're like exposed to other instruments.
Sure.
And I thought, something just told me, maybe he doesn't really understand. This is kindergarten going into first grade. Maybe he doesn't understand really what the violin is. So I downloaded this playlist of like all these different artists and showed him some videos.
Did you show him Lindsay Sterling?
I did. Lindsay Sterling. Is it David Garrett? I think David Garrett is another one. He's like European, but
okay. I'm gonna have to look that up, because Sloan's obsessed with Lindsay Sterling. That's why she wants to play the violin.
She's incredible, and she dances, which I'm a dancer. So like, what she does to me is just unbelievable. Yeah. I wanted to see her live, and I think she sold out. I couldn't believe
that's so awesome.
Yeah, she was in Orlando or something. We didn't get to see her, but so I showed David, videos, and he was like, I want to do the violin. I really want to do that. And I was like, okay. So that requires, he does it at school, but then it also requires an outside of school lesson. So that's like one more thing on the plate, and he's very active and loves sports too. So we've got like the instrument, we've got the sports, we've got jujitsu. This is a relatively new thing, but he went to jujitsu, and he was like, I want to go tomorrow, and I want to go the next day, and I want to go the next day.
Put your children in jujitsu. Sloan's the same way. Loves it. It gives me goosebumps. And it's so awesome, for discipline and structure and how to communicate and just
Yes.
how to treat people, like all of the things.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I think actually really good for only children, because like David doesn't have a sibling where he can like wrestle around with and spar with and all that stuff. And he's like, whoa, like I can actually do this. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
He usually does it with dad, but you know, gives dad a little break.
I don't think it's given me a break. It has made mine harder, because now she's like, lay down.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. She goes, look at what I learned.
Let me show you.
I'm like, okay, cool. But remember, when dad taps, you got to stop.
The tapping.
It's so awesome. I love it. Yes, it's, I can't even imagine what that would be like, you know, with having multiple children. But I do think that the importance of that calm, free play is so necessary, especially if they're in school and especially if they're doing those things. Like, you know, on the weekends, I try and plan mornings on Saturday where it's like we have nothing to do until 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So we can get up, and then I can make a cup of coffee, and then we can color together for an hour, and then we can, you know, do whatever, and then get to whatever the heck else we want to do for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I've said it since she was 3. This is my favorite age. This is my favorite age. This is my favorite age. And it's literally like just walking around with a little best friend all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And the first, I'm brutally honest, the first year and a half were so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because as a dad, I just tell me what you want. And you can't yet, you know, but like 2.5, 3 hits and she can say it. And I'm like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, so once the communication happened, I really felt bonded to her from the beginning, right out of the gate. There was not a moment where I didn't feel bonded to her, but I felt like our bonding skyrocketed when the communication really got involved.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I would say for my husband too, that was the same kind of like, I feel like you guys seem alike in that way, that it was harder for him. And then now he's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, we like to do all the same things. And he's got a little buddy now and it's so fun.
It's like, hand her the phone, here, DJ in the car. You know, she's got her playlist and she's like doing the whole thing, and it's awesome. I love it.
We have our playlist too. Music is huge for us. We love, like, he really is so into music. So we do the same thing. What do you want on your playlist? Like, what's your pump up song before soccer? Like, what, you know?
Yeah. We got our hype song. It's Macklemore's Glorious. And we just like,
ooh, that's a good one.
It's so good. And she jams and we sing it the whole way. Or we try to sing it the whole way because neither one of us are rappers, but you know, whatever. So like we try and butcher it the whole way. But her taste in music is all over the place and it's amazing. Yeah. Like we'll be listening to Thunderstruck and then like keep losing it. And then Oasis Wonderwall seconds later.
Oh my God, I love Oasis
and I'm
too.
just like, you get good music. Like something right is happening. You probably get it from your mother because I'm not really a music guy. It's the only time I listen to music is when I'm with her. Oh. I'm like a podcast and audiobook guy. I just like that. I don't play music in the house. Like that's her mom. So she definitely gets her music desire from her mother for sure. And it's cool to see. I love that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, the music comes from me, I think. I don't know, but my husband's self-taught in the guitar, so he plays an instrument.
Wow,
but
that's impressive.
Yeah, but I think I'm more the DJ. Like, move over. I got the playlist for this.
I like it. All right, so before we wrap up, is there a piece of advice that you would tell moms or dads that has just been like instrumental to you that you think like, man, if I just kind of knew that one thing, and it's okay if you don't, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's like that one thing that you're like, this too shall pass kind of a thing, you know, what would you say?
Oh gosh, I think each phase is different. You know, each age is different. And just when you think, oh, this is so hard, they're growing through another phase. So don't get too attached to any one behavior or, you know, if they're throwing tantrums right now, a couple months from now, they're not going to be doing the same. Right. You know, most likely they're going to be like growing through these phases, you know? And I think, you know, I think with my son, I really try to let him know that it's okay to feel sad or to cry. And, you know, do you need a hug? It's always, what's making you so sad? Like acknowledging his feelings. And do you just need a hug? And most of the time I say, do you need a hug? And after we hug, he's running off and like, he's totally fine. You know, it's just that acknowledgement like of their feelings and, you know, of course, just showing a lot of love. And I think I've always talked to him like he was a person.
Boom.
You know?
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing with Sloan. Never baby talked her.
Yeah.
Ever
never.
once. Not like she's an adult from the beginning.
Yeah. And David was talking full sentences by like 18 months roughly. And I think it was because we talked to him. We just, everything he was doing, we say, oh, well, this pen is blue, and, just kind of explaining the world, telling him the things. And so talking to them like they're people. Yeah. Because they understand.
Yeah. They do understand.
Yeah.
Their subconscious is understanding.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This was amazing. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.